I can't marry someone like her father. She's not my class. The words landed in the quiet dining room like something thrown hard against glass. Mr. Edmund did not look up from his newspaper. Daniel took that as permission to continue. I am serious. He sat down hard across from his father. I came home expecting a normal visit. Instead, there is a woman I have never heard of living in my mother's house, cooking in our kitchen, and you are telling me she is supposed to be my wife. He leaned forward. Father, who is she? Mr. Edmund turned to Paige. Father, I am talking to you. Mr. Edmund set the newspaper down and looked at his son with those dark and hurried eyes that had seen 64 years of the world. I know, he said simply. You know what? Everything you are about to say, that she is not educated enough, not connected enough that your associates will talk. He paused. Have I missed anything? And then you will bring up your reputation, because you always bring up your reputation when what you are actually feeling is discomfort. That is not fair, Daniel said. Is it not? You have been in this house for 3 hours. Have you spoken to her once? Asked her a single question. Silence. Then what you have is not an opinion. It is a prejudice. Mr. Edmund looked directly at his son. In 64 years, I have met men with every advantage this world offers, and I have watched most of them spend their lives being small and cruel in the way people are cruel when they are afraid someone will discover they are not as substantial as their circumstances. He paused. And I have met people with nothing who had every reason to become bitter and instead chose every single day to remain decent. Which one of those do you think I would call class? Daniel said nothing. Your mother had that quality, that particular character that does not perform itself for an audience. It simply exists whether anyone is watching or not. I have not seen it in another person since she died until I saw it in Grace. The mention of his mother moved through Daniel like a current through water. The next time you use the phrase "not my class" in this house, Mr. Edmund said, raising his newspaper, you will be talking about yourself, not her. The conversation was over. Daniel sat alone at the table for a long time, the words settling into him the way that true things settle. Finding all the places where they fit, whether you want them to or not. Outside the window, Grace pressed yellow flowers into the garden soil with careful hands, completely unaware she had just been defended by a 64-year-old man with a newspaper and no intention of losing. Grace had heard none of it. At dinner that evening, Daniel had looked at her exactly once. A brief polite glance that filed something under a category and did not return to it. He spoke to his father throughout the meal and did not address Grace a single time. She ate her food and kept her face still. She was very practiced at that. That night, she sat on the edge of her bed with her father's photograph in both hands. You knew nothing was promised. Be grateful for what is real and stop reaching for what is not. She was very convincing. She still could not sleep. The cousin arrived on the 4th day. His name was Richard. He wore his money-like armor loudly and pointed outward. He brought his wife Sonia, a thin, elegant woman who looked at everything as though it was slightly below the standard she had been anticipating. They came for dinner. Grace served the meal. Richard watched Grace move around the table with the attention of a man building a case. So, he said pleasantly. This is Grace. Lovely in a sight way. Where did you say she was from again? I did not say, Mr. Edmund replied, only asking because she looks familiar around the market areas near the old road. Perhaps the food was prepared entirely by Grace, Mr. Edmund said. Something in the room shifted the way rooms shift when a quiet man decides to draw a line. I suggest you taste it before you continue. Richard laughed, took a slow bite, and nodded. Excellent. Really very good. He looked at Daniel. She is useful. I will give you that. The word useful fell into the room like something dropped from height. Gray stood beside the table with the saving dish in her hands. Her face completely still, giving Richard absolutely nothing. Not flinching, not performing composure, simply being it. The way people are composed when they have had enormous practice paying for their dignity and silence. Across the table, Daniel had gone very still. His eyes had moved from his plate to Grace, and something was happening in his expression that had not been there before. Something that looked for the first time since he arrived, like he was actually seeing her. After dinner, Richard settled into the living room. Daniel, you have a reputation that took years to build. A woman like that is simply not built for your world. Richard, Daniel said. Finish your drink and then go home. Richard laughed, the recovering laugh of a man who has misjudged the room. No offense to the girl. She seems perfectly nice. For what she now, Richard? The smile left his face. He finished his drink and left without another word. Daniel sat alone thinking about the word useful, about Grace standing there, her face still giving Richard nothing. Not fey, not shame, just dignity. The real kind. The kind that does not come from what people think of you. It comes from what you think of yourself. Your mother had that quality. He found Grace in the garden the next morning. I owe you an apology, he said. I walked into this house 4 days ago and decided who you were before I learned a single thing about you. I let my cousin say things that should not have been said. I am sorry. Your cousin said what a lot of people think. She said. At least he said it where I could hear it. That does not make it right. No, she agreed. It does not. They stood in the morning light with the fountain running softly. The flowers are doing well, Daniel said finally. They just needed someone to put them in the right place, Grace said. He looked at the flowers, then at her, then back at the flowers. Yes, he said quietly. I imagine they did. He began appearing in the kitchen 2 days later. Can I help? He asked one morning. Can you chop an onion without crying? She asked. Absolutely, he said with the confidence of a man who had not chopped an onion in 5 years. He lasted 40 seconds. Grace handed him a cloth. He wiped his eyes with enormous dignity and kept chopping. This is the onion, he said. Of course, she said. I am not crying. I did not say you were. She turned away so he could not see her face. They fell into a rhythm, working side by side in the warm kitchen light, talking the way people talk when they have stopped performing for each other. He told her about the loneliness of 6 years abroad. She told him about her father and the photograph she had carried like a piece of the sky. He listened like every word mattered. One evening, he watched her check the bread. You are not what I expected, he said. I expected someone who needed saving, but you do not need saving at all. No, Grace said. I do not. You are the steadiest person I have ever been in a room with. She looked up at him. He was looking at her like something he had almost walked past and could not now imagine having missed. Her heart did something with no safe name yet. She looked back at the bread. It happened on a Fay's evening by the fountain. Mr. Edmund had quietly excused himself with the serene timing of a man who understood exactly when to leave a room. Daniel turned to face her. I came into this house calling you not my class. I let my cousin call you useful. And in 2 weeks in this kitchen with you, I have been more known by another person than I have been in 6 years of building a life that looked impressive from the outside and was empty in the middle. Grace was very still. I am in love with you, Grace. I did not plan it, but there it is. She looked at him for a long moment. You cried over the onion, she said. He laughed, the full-face laugh that made him 10 years younger. That was the onion, he said. It was not the onion, she said. He reached across and took her hand. No, he said softly. It was not. He proposed 3 weeks later on a Sunday morning in the kitchen, down on one knee on the kitchen floor. A simple, elegant ring catching the morning light. You told me you wanted to choose and be chosen. I am choosing you completely. Will you choose me back? Grace set the kettle down. Yes, she said. I choose you back. It was Grace who suggested inviting Mrs. Vera to the wedding. I want to walk into that day carrying nothing. Let her come, let her see, and then let it be finished. Mrs. Vera arrived expecting something ordinary. Then she saw the banner. Daniel, Edmund and Grace, gold lettering, a photograph of them together. Grace laughing, glowing, her cornrows decorated with white flowers, looking like a woman loved into her fleshed self. Mrs. Vera stayed at the surname. Edmund, she turned, and there was Mr. Edmund moving through the guest with his cane, the old man she had laughed at, the man she had handed Grace to without a second thought, the man whose business empire spanned 4 countries. The drink slipped in her hand. She found an attendant and said she was family and needed to see the bride. She was told the bride was unavailable. She insisted. A tall man with a black appease appeared. Ma, he said pleasantly. This way, please. She was guided with complete politeness and absolute firmness back through the gate onto the plain street outside while the celebration music swelled on the other side of the wall. She had no one to blame. That was the part with nowhere comfortable to rest. Inside, Grace walked down the aisle in a dress she had chosen entirely herself. Daniel stood at the end of it watching her with the expression of a man who had called her not his class and ended up certating she was everything. Beside him, Mr. Edmund stood tall without his cane, his eyes bright, his face carrying the satisfaction of a man who had waited a long time and been proven completely right. Grace walked slowly. She thought about her father, about yellow flowers in empty spaces, about a quiet old man who decided she was worth everything, about a tall man crying over an onion and refusing to admit it. She reached the end of the aisle. Daniel held out his hand. She took it and Grace finally understood the difference between being lucky and being loved. They were not the same thing. They had never been the same thing. And she would never confuse them.